The US election will take place on Tuesday, November the 5th, 2024. It's one of the biggest global events and will shape trends and policies all around the world for the next 4 years. But what will this mean for the markets and for your trading? Now, there's no way to know for sure whether the Democrats or Republicans will win the election, but whatever the outcome, as traders, we have to look at things like probabilities and the possible geopolitical ramifications. You've submitted your questions. Now, here are my answers. Ever since that first presidential debate when Biden had his bad night, then the market has been starting to price in a higher probability of a Trump win. But with that failed assassination attempt on Saturday afternoon, the market really started to price in a Trump victory. And it's not that hard to imagine. With that photograph that everybody saw, with the fist raised in the air in defiance against what had happened, and the American flag in the background. But we are only in July, and as this election campaign has already shown, it's almost like a Netflix drama. Who knows what could happen next? So data shows that nobody really knows whether the market will go higher or lower on a Democratic or Republican win. However, what we can be sure in certain Trump trades, as they've been called, is that there are sectors that will benefit more from a Trump presidency. This is because Trump is known to want to spend more to achieve higher economic growth, despite it being fueled by debt. Now that means that cyclical stocks are likely to outperform because these move in line with the economic cycle. Better economic growth equal higher profits for cyclical companies. By cyclical companies, I mean those involved in construction or industrials or consumer discretionary stocks. Now, this is my 6th US presidential election in my trading career. However, one really stands out, and that was the 2016 election where Trump became the surprise victor against Hillary Clinton. I was actually in a hostel in Costa Rica, of all places, and I remember staying up all night to watch the election results come through, and I was trading on my CFD account. Now, as soon as it became to look like Trump was going to be the surprise victor, the market started dropping. The US 500 or S&P 500 actually went limit down about 3 o'clock in the morning, down 5%. I had been slowly buying and accumulating more because I didn't see why it was such a negative thing, but it was just the shock factor that the market was not enjoying. However, it went into a volatility auction, which means that all trading stops for 10 minutes, and that was the low. And we've never been back to a low like it again since 2016. So whatever happens on November the 5th, just be prepared for the unexpected. So the great thing about crypto markets are, of course, they're open 24/7. And we saw an example of how useful this is for traders because Bitcoin was trading when the events unfolded live on CNN on that Saturday afternoon with the failed assassination attempt. In the first instance, Bitcoin dropped 1% in a straight line. Nobody knew what was going on. But within minutes, and as soon as Trump was back on his feet, raising the hand in the air, Bitcoin started rallying aggressively. It was up 2%, then 3% and 4%. And that's because Trump is well known to be more of a friend to crypto than a Democratic win in the election would be. Now, we're a few days since and Bitcoin's 7% higher than where it was before the failed assassination attempt. So it certainly looks like crypto is going to be a beneficiary of a potential Trump win. And of course, crypto markets have suffered from the tough regulation shown by the Democrats over the last 4 years. So if we were to see a change in presidency to the Republican Party, you might see some of those fears alleviated. So if the benefits of the Trump win in the short term are higher spending for higher growth, then what about the medium term? You can't keep on kicking the can of debt down the road. What we do know that interest repayments on the federal debt are set to grow substantially no matter who wins the election. Over the next 18 months, we know that interest repayments are going to jump over defence, they're going to jump over spending on Medicare, and they're going to go into the #1 expense of the US government at over $2 trillion a year. Because the US government is already funding such high debt levels, then this is going to take an even higher interest rate to attract enough investors to buy those bonds. So at some point towards the end of the presidency, then we might start to have concerns about a further debt crisis. Of course, a debt crisis means inflation, and again, means higher interest rates. All this could come at a time where the economy is slowing after that initial high splurge. That looks like there could be a crisis of confidence in the US dollar or fiat money as a whole. Therefore, gold could well be one of the main beneficiaries in the medium term, or even Bitcoin itself. So if Trump comes into office and starts throwing around much bigger tariffs on China, this time I think they may well be better prepared for it. Cementing relations between Russia, Middle Eastern countries such as Iran and Saudi Arabia, and themselves. And then suddenly we start to see a trade war, not just because of the tariffs, but also on the oil price. Now remember, oil price is what's going to lead to more inflation. And if you're already having trouble with high interest rates because of your debt levels, the last thing you need is an oil price going through $100 or $150. So already in this election campaign, we've seen a lot of the party's donors turn against the candidate. And then we've had a failed assassination attempt. And it's only July. We've still got months to go until this election. So who knows what's going to happen? One big concern for markets is an increased polarization between the two parties' voters. So what you really need to be aware of are your risk limits, the potential reaction to any black swan events, and are you prepared for any outcome? What will be for certain at some point between now and November, we will see higher volatility. So to trade your edge, be prepared, be disciplined, and get that risk management in line.